You're listening to FFOP Radio.
Reach the
Hey everybody, and welcome to the show. My name is Dave, and this, I just realized, is the first episode of Everything Everywhere, so welcome to it. Fanfare, etc. But let me get to the important part of the episode. First of all, new show, but second of all, brand new guest. I first met this gentleman when I dove back into martial arts. I was watching Matt Pasquinelli. If you're familiar with him, if you're not, go and look him up. But for some reason, we clicked together, so I thought, let's get this guy on the show. Enough with the vamping. Let me introduce him. I know him, and you're going to know him now, too, as Sensei Emmett. Sensei Emmett, welcome on the show, my man.
It's a pleasure to be here, Dave. Thanks for having me on.
I am so excited to talk to you because, number one, you're from the UK, which is always enthralling to an American. And number two, because of the martial arts aspect, because I've been into that for a million years. But first, let me introduce Krista over there. She's my other co-host, my wife.
Hello.
Hello.
She's over there on the couch. Or the chair. I got rid of the chair. Anyway, not important. So, Sensei Emmett, let's crack into you a little bit. Obviously, you are from not here. As I mentioned before, you're from the UK. Where are you?
Ireland.
Ireland, yes. Okay.
Ireland, so...
I did not want to, because it was right on the tip of my tongue. I almost said Scotland. Yeah. And I was like, if there's one thing I know about people from Europe is if you're Welsh, you hate being called English and vice versa. And I think the Scots and the Irish have a similar thing going on, right?
Scotch and Irish are actually quite similar. They actually like each other,
okay.
so to speak.
So that's a surprising tidbit. Because I've got a Welsh friend, and when you refer to him as British, he blows his stack.
The Irish would be very much like the Welsh.
Okay, so yeah. So let's just crack open. Sensei Emmett, you are a martial arts teacher, yes?
Yeah.
So what style do you teach?
It's actually a hybrid style that was sort of born out of karate and judo.
Okay.
Back in the 60s. It's called Shin Ken Goshin Jitsu.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And it was actually two English guys that sort of created the system way back in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just developed over the last 70 years or so.
You know, all the like little offshoots of all the martial arts, like there are so many of them.
Yeah.
I've actually looked into this one like as a little bit of research, and it's a really interesting style. So what drew you to it?
I actually came into it by accident, really. I started off in boxing and kickboxing,
mm-hmm.
and then kind of in my teens got into Japanese jiu-jitsu, as it was actually run after school by one of the teachers,
mm-hmm.
and kind of got the Shodan and that by the time I finished school. And then when I left school, could no longer be part of the club because it was run within the school.
Right.
And started to search about for something similar, and the next thing I came across this system, actually in the local community centre.
Okay.
And started to train down there. And over time then, I think when I was about 18, I met my wife and we moved down the country slightly, and it's a very small town, and started to train in the local martial arts club, and soon found out that it was actually the head dojo for the system that I was actually practicing.
Oh, wow.
Prior. So I kind of just stuck with that. Generally at the start, because it was the only martial arts club in the town. So it was just for convenience, really.
Something about Europe and the martial arts seems so... Because, like, maybe, obviously, growing up in America, I saw karate and taekwondo, and there are martial arts dojos all over the place out here.
Yeah.
Is it like that in the UK? Like, if you go to Ireland or Scotland or Wales or England or any of those countries, are there as many... Like, is it as proliferated as I see here is what I'm getting at?
It wouldn't be now. I know where I'm living now, it would be quite a rural town, but there's only our club within that town, and in the neighbouring sort of town, there's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is only 5 minutes down the road, really. But I'd say in a very wide area, there's about 15 clubs.
Oh, wow.
And about 8 of them are actually part of our system. And then there's a few Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and they're all connected. But no, there's not a wide choice here, really. It's just
Yeah. All of my because here I've studied karate, I've done kenpo, I've done aikido ninjutsu, I did a little bit of aikido, I've done tai chi, and so I just feel like here I was spoiled for choice because when I sort of got bored, I could roll out of bed with one and hop in with the other.
yeah. Well, we can get that a bit here now. I know there's a city, but it's actually where I'm from now. It's about 30 minutes drive away from where I'm living, and there will be quite a lot of martial arts clubs up there, and you would have a wide choice. But a lot of the time, you have to really search them out. They're not. You don't really come across them by accident. You would really have to know what you want to train, and then Google it and search for it and find where it is. And even then, half the time you're trying to find where exactly that building is. So it could be a dance studio with a martial arts club upstairs. So it's really trying to find them.
Yeah, I imagine because here again they're just sort of spread out like in the States, or at least in the Western United States where I'm from. Everything is so spread out. Like there's a Taekwondo studio that must be 5,000-6,000 square feet that's been in operation for as long as I've been alive, and like they're all like that. Yeah, at least here. So let's dig into your past a little bit. So you say you started with boxing. What was it that got you into the fighting arts to begin with?
I think it was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh, man.
The Karate Kid and things like that. I think from a very young age, I was obsessed with fighting.
Yeah, oh boy. The fact that I was really hoping you would say the Ninja Turtles, because not only are they my favorite cartoon / comic / movie characters, but they are also my touchstone into the martial arts.
Yeah.
But here, you probably grew up with the Hero Turtles, right?
We did, yeah. Okay. Hero Turtles here.
Yeah, which is so funny. Like, you couldn't say ninja, but they can still carry their weapons.
Yeah.
So funny. But yeah, so I feel like that was a lot of... so you must be around the same age I am then, like closing in on 40?
Yep.
Yeah.
That would be it.
Yeah, so we'll let that remain a mystery to everybody. But yeah, so when growing up, I feel like everybody my age went one of two ways. You went like... the Transformers, or you went Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And so I ran around my house for a solid decade before getting any actual training, like doing jump kicks and shit. You know, all the crazy shit you do as a single digit adolescent. So here's an important question, Emmett. Very important, maybe the most important I'll ask you all day.
Yeah.
Who is your favorite turtle?
That's a risky question, but
yeah,
I'd say Raphael.
Oh my God! So yeah, we're simpatico again. Obviously, my favorite turtle as well, because he's the best, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I picked up the size simply for him. Like, I bought all of the Ninja Turtle weapons. Obviously, they're sitting over there in a big pile. But yeah, so Raph, obviously the best. So also I want to touch upon this since we're already going down this road. When you commented the Splinter versus Miyagi question, we have to go over that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. So you're a fan of the Karate Kid, which I am not. I think Daniel Son is a real heel. Let's just say.
Yeah.
But it doesn't denigrate the question. So to you, when you ask who would win in a fight, Splinter versus Mr. Miyagi, I want to know what your thought process is and who do you think is going to come out on top?
Splinter, definitely.
Right. So full disclosure, I asked this to my buddies on the live that we did last night that was a disaster that no one will ever see. So don't worry about that. But I feel like everybody has to say Splinter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's a working master. Mr. Miyagi fell out to do the bonsai for a long time. One student versus 4. It feels so lopsided to me. So who do you think? who do you think could take Splinter on?
That's a difficult one now, but you've put me on the spot.
Don't blow your brains out over it, but because I haven't thought of it, like nothing I'm about to tell you or ask you I've thought of either, so don't worry about it.
It'd be interesting to see him against Master Wong, to be honest.
Really? It's hard because when you look to, because you can say who the Turtles can fight, easy peasy, because there are a million different fighters out there. But when you say the Master, like your Miyagis, your Splinters, your Sticks, your whoever you want, your flavor of the month. Stick, yeah.
Yeah. Daredevil stick?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's who Splinter was based off of, or ripped off of, essentially.
Yeah. That could be interesting.
Right. So I bet maybe the only person who could fight Splinter to a stalemate is Stick. No, Stick.
Yeah, I know, but if he's ripped off of his character.
Right. So that's why I think they're polar. They're not polar opposites. They are the same polarity.
So like a stalemate.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So now we'll get back to the real stuff. With your specific style, do you enjoy it, or do you find yourself wishing you had access to a wider breadth of styles?
Well, I know the past few years now I have been branching out a lot. I really enjoy the system I'm doing, but the sort of seniors to me are very into cross training and kind of evolving our own system. And going out and sort of training in other clubs and other systems, and not so much testing ours against theirs, but kind of just going out and just sort of sampling everything. And a lot of the time you could be training something for a long time and then go somewhere else and find out that they have a slight change to it that actually makes it more effective, or things like that. So we would take that back, and a lot of time there's, in the local area here now at the minute, we have 6 instructors working. So we would have nights where we would all be training different places and come back. We would have nights where we would just train together and sort of play with the ideas that we're picking up and kind of seeing if we can sort of evolve them into our system and seeing how we can play with it.
In your system, do you guys implement weapons? Because I know judo is a lot of throws and a lot of body movement and a lot of twisting. Are you working with like sticks or staffs or swords or etc.?
We do a lot of work with sai and nunchucks, and I think it's just a lot of it's down to people want to learn weapons.
Yeah,
so
nunchucks are maybe the most fun you can have in the martial arts.
Yeah.
Personally, I think I've got 2 pairs of speed chucks, one heavy one that nearly breaks my arm every time I misuse it, and then a bunch of odds and ends and stuff. But yeah, like I think you probably are nailing it with the size and the chucks, because they're so fun and they're super relatable, and also nunchucks are like super cheap and easy to make yourself.
Yeah.
Like
actually, a funny story about nunchucks. I didn't actually use them for about 3 years. I was doing a lot of work with sais and katana, and then one night students came in and asked could they do chucks. So I started teaching the chucks, and then I thought, sort of got a bit of confidence back. I thought I'll try the double chucks. It was a kids class, so it was fine for about maybe 30 seconds, and then I hit myself just on the corner of the eye and almost blinded myself. But I had to go for an hour, 45 minutes teaching a class with only being able to see out of one eye and pretend nothing happened.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, the chucks are... That's the thing. They're only the funnest weapon after you've stopped being frustrated by them.
Yeah.
I totally feel your pain, because the ones I do double-handed now, I'm only doing very slightly because my left hand is still way behind my right. But I use a pair of like speed chucks, so they're 6 ounces a piece with a little tiny string in the middle. And even those, like I started out with my regular ones that are what almost 2 inches thick, like they're 1.5 inches or something, of red oak. And I don't know how. I feel like every pair of nunchucks, there's like a Taoist master in every nunchuck factory who sprinkles a little magic that guarantees you will smash yourself in the funny bone of your elbow once a day if you touch them.
Yeah. Definitely.
But here's the thing too. I lean more toward Eskrima sticks personally because they're lighter. Sais are super heavy, so I got to give you props for using those things on the regs.
Yeah.
I love mine, but it is so much nicer to pick up a pair of sticks that are 8 ounces a piece as opposed to my size, which are like a pound a piece.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I liked the sticks. I like the sticks.
Couldn't agree more.
It's but what is your take on the size as a what do I want to say? Maybe not a functional weapon, but an actionable weapon, because there's all those videos on YouTube that say is X weapon usable in a fight? Number one, I think that's the dumbest question in the world, because anything you have to hand, you're going to use in a fight if you need to. But given your druthers, do you think sais are a good, like maybe not today, obviously, but let's say we're living in feudal Japan or ancient China or something, and you got your choice, you got your chucks, your swords, your whatever. Do you think sais are a legitimate choice for self-defense?
I know nowadays now, I don't walk around with sais.
No, yeah.
Around the street. So back in feudal Japan, I'm not sure. I think they're too short a weapon. I think a lot of swords and things were used back then, so having to close that distance would have been quite difficult. So I don't think they're as effective as, say, the katana or even the jo staff.
Right, yeah. The jo is a... For those that initiated, because I've got a lot of wildly different listeners. So a jo staff as opposed to a bow staff. The jo staff is typically like 5 foot, between 4 and 5 foot. Yeah. And your bow is going to be 6 foot plus. The bow is... or if you're short, you wouldn't do that. But the bow will be as tall as you are, essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think on top of the size being a super heavy, borderline clunky weapon, they are super short. Like even like the ones I have are like the biggest ones I could find. I think they're barely 2 feet.
Yeah, they're like 18 inches.
Something like that. That's why, yeah, the jo staff is nice. For my money, I always train with just your regular 36-inch, whatever, 28-inch Eskrima stick.
Yeah.
And I always recommend that to everybody, because if you pick up the Eskrima sticks, everything that you can do with a stick in your hand, you can transfer to a sword. You can semi-transfer to the chucks or the sais or well, within reason, because the forks get you.
Yeah.
But, and plus they're cheap, right?
Yep.
Anyone can go out and find a stick. I've got some that I was like, you know what? I'll be one of these dudes. I'll have my own hipster stick. So I went out, drove 2 hours to find a forest. Got my own sticks. I hate them because they're rough and raw and shitty, so I don't use them, but I got them.
Well, we went even to like thrift stores and got like wood canes.
Oh, yeah. How do you feel about a fighting cane, Emmett?
I've actually been doing a lot of training with fighting canes recently. I think down to Matt Pasquinelli and Gary Hernandez. Both of them have excellent YouTube channels. And I think it's a very effective self-defense weapon that can be taken anywhere.
Yeah, I think it's a very cool concept.
Yeah.
For a bunch of reasons, but it also, like every hobby or every facet of everything, it has its weirdos and its weird side of things. Because being compelled by the cane, like I'm sure you were, you want to be like, yeah, it is something you can take everywhere and yada, yada, yada. But you have to walk that line of just being the dude with an affectation, walking with a cane and having to deal with people looking at you and fully embracing it and being a cane weirdo and getting a fingerless glove and like having like that one guy who I can't remember his name, but he sells a cane called the Raven, and it's like high impact aircraft aluminum and shit. And I want to be like I don't get me wrong, I get the enthusiasm. Boy, do I love it. But when you lean that hard into anything, you look like a cartoon character.
Yeah, definitely. I actually came across a cane, fighting cane by accident too. It was a few years ago. I was sparring and actually damaged my foot. And ended up on crutches for six or 7 weeks.
Oof.
And couldn't train. And it was actually a guy that was dropping his kids to the dojo. Was on a walking cane, and I was basically spent half the class teaching him how to use the cane for fighting.
Yeah.
And then I kind of started to think the crutch could be used as... My mind went a bit crazy, but...
You can do that because if you want to like really jump into it, I did this with photography. You can do it with martial arts, but if you get into that mindset, like when Matt says, like anything can be a weapon of opportunity is a dangerous thing to say to someone with a wild imagination, because then you get somebody like me who, once you get onto that concept, who's like cranks it up to 11. So I'll be at a mall or we'll be at an outside shopping pavilion or whatever. I'm like looking for things I can beat someone to death with. I don't want to be that guy. I thought, well, there's one of those mopping signs I could pull out. It's like 3 sticks. So I can beat someone to death. And meanwhile, it's like a pleasant Sunday afternoon.
There's no
like
one around.
80 degrees outside. Yeah, I figured I was turning into that level 11 weirdo, and I was like, okay, stop thinking of weapons of opportunity. But it's an excellent tool to have should you need it.
Well, and if you don't take it up to an 11, it's good for self-awareness.
Yeah, but so let me ask you this, Emmett, because that's what I do. When I find something new and exciting, I go in whole hog. I don't want to start at like the beginner stage. I don't even want to start at the intermediate stage. I want to get the best there is so that when my skills are developed, I don't have to like swap out my shitty gear for the good gear.
Yeah.
Because there are some people out there who need that. Who need to start with the cheap stuff and go, not for me. You and I feel like if we get onto something, we know we're going to lock into it.
Yeah, I'm definitely like that now. And not just with weapons, even with training systems. It's, like, as you can see in my channel now, recently I decided I wanted to go and do a bit of kickboxing. So instead of just going to the local kickboxing club, I picked a local world champion and decided to spar him for fun.
Oh, wow.
So it was... There was no, I'm going to challenge the white belt or I'm going to go and train with the white belt. I wanted 4-time world champion. Yeah. And then not only that, super heavyweight, which is a lot heavier than I am. And went on, and it was a lot of fun now. But I think I went in knowing that I wasn't even going to come close to winning a sparring match. But
yeah, but that's what you need. You need to see. Yeah. It's kind of like when you buy a race car. Let's say you go out and buy a muscle car. You don't want to spend the first 4 years of its life doing 20 miles an hour around the block. You want to open that baby up. So I totally get you. Like when I got back into, because the martial arts for me started, around the Ninja Turtle era. That's when this is still in the days when all martial arts were just karate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we found a karate class. And from like whatever, 3rd grade up until high school was solid karate, tai chi, kenpo, yada, yada, yada. Because it was interesting because my high school actually offered Chinese kenpo in place of PE.
What?
Yeah. That's where I got my black belt.
I had no martial arts.
I went to, it was a charter school and Mr. Hill, Peter Hill, was my teacher. So I was like, okay, let's do Chinese kenpo. And that sort of really opened up the world to me because he got me. I was like, Kenpo, that sounds dumb. What a dumb name, I said, because I was a high school kid and I was an idiot. But through him, I got, my black belt in Kenpo. I got my black belt certification in Tai Chi or Black Sash or whatever. Funny, not really funny, but semi-interesting story. During my entanglement with Mr. Hill and doing all that training, I actually, to get my Tai Chi certification, got through Jet Li's pseudo brother, Jin Hung Lee. I don't know if they're actually related or if they just came out of the same kung fu school. I never really got any real clarity, but I like to tell that story because it's related to a superstar. So what are your... I obviously brought that up just casually that I've got a black belt in Kenpo and Tai Chi. What are your certifications in? Like, do you have a black belt in the style that you teach, obviously?
I've got a first dan black belt in Japanese Jiu-Jitsu that I got it just before I turned 18. Mm-hmm. And I've got a second dan black belt in the system that I'm teaching now. And on top, I have various other grades. I've kind of trained in sort of different, like Judo. I've done a bit of Tai Chi and kickboxing. I think anything I could get into, I was doing at one stage, and I'm still doing that at the moment. So I've got like a range of belts, yellow belts, green belts,
Mm-hmm.
but I've only got the 2 black belts now. But
Yeah, that's all I got.
so far, so far.
So let me ask you this then. So, do you lean more toward the harder arts? Because karate and all of those very classical arts are very rigid with their stances and their big blocks, whereas like judo, aikido, aiki ninjutsu, etc., are very soft and use a lot of spinning and momentum as opposed to basically hard, strong brute force. I see the merits of both, but what do you prefer?
I'm a big fan of judo. I
Okay.
really enjoy judo now, and I think it's because the system we're teaching now is so heavily influenced by it.
Mhm.
But I would actually love to go and study just pure judo, and it's that sort of throwing. I really enjoy that. It's sort of a close contact throwing groundwork.
If without if we take weapons off the table, throws are the best part of martial arts, the most fun.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. You can't beat hitting someone with a planet.
It's so. Because I obviously grew up doing straight karate, Shorin Ryu, or whatever we were doing. And when you're young, I feel like stuff like karate or taekwondo or the harder arts and the very rigid arts are good for young brains because it teaches structure and yada yada. But when you get old and you start realizing that when you spar, this all is going to start, like the rubber is going to start hitting the road, and the rubber is their fist and the road is your face. I really liked leaning toward the softer arts that did the throws, that did the spinning, like people like Wing Chun because it's very loose and stuff. And maybe that's it. When you're young, you're hard like wood and you do all the hard shit. But then when I got older, I was like, yikes. Because a karate throw or a taekwondo throw is a painful experience. But I love a kenpo throw. I will be at the receiving end of kenpo or aiki ninjutsu any day of the week.
Yep.
Maybe you have this too. The name I know it by is completely retarded, but we called it the $ throw. So when you're, are you familiar with like the wrist locks?
Yeah.
Okay, so like from the first wrist lock where you're doing that outward circle away from the body with the wrist.
Yeah.
If you do that and do a big S and then a line up like a $, which you guys don't have there, obviously, it'd be like the pound sign, but that would be the wrong shape. So yeah, it's like when you're pushing the lock, if you go real far and do a big S and then cut it up the middle, that's a $. And with no effort on the person being thrown, they spin around like a top and end up face down on the ground, having not even, you don't have to. That's the beauty about that throw. I love it so much. Is if I could find someone physically fit, I would do it to them and teach them to do it to me, and we would do it for infinity.
Yeah, I think it's actually an Aikido throw.
Yeah, I'm sure it is because I learned it.
Kodageshi.
Yeah, but yeah, I love tossing dudes around, and the sound of a body hitting the mat is maybe one of the best sounds ever.
Definitely, it's something I actually enjoy doing. Is I was involved with teaching in schools, so supposed to be the equivalent to high school in America, but sort of kids around 15, 16.
Okay, yeah.
And I'd have been teaching maybe 6-week course, but you go on, and as you said before, teenagers, they've no interest. It's just you're on there trying to fight for their attention. So what I'd usually do is I would go on and pick the biggest teacher that was in the room and ask them to volunteer to come on and just get them to grab me, and I would just throw them straight over my head with a stomach throw or something. And instantly have attention from every teenager in the room. How do we throw our teacher like that?
Yeah, that's what unlocks it. Like, because when you're a kid, you gravitate toward the weapons because the Ninja Turtles, duh. And whatever. Like the kids who came after me had the Power Rangers, so everybody has their martial arts analog. But they all have weapons. And if you go into a school or in a literal school, like a high school where it's not like a dojo, they're not going to let you do that. So you have to pull out the big guns. Every time I did a martial arts demo that would allow weapons, I'd bring those, obviously. But if they didn't, we were always doing throws.
Yeah.
Because, the hand drills or like punching or doing like the locks and stuff, if you're in the know, is incredibly cool. But if you're just a checked out civilian in an audience, you want to see bodies flipping and tossed and all over the place.
Oh, that's definitely. I actually done a lock there. I think it was about 2 years ago was the last one I done before COVID. And we actually had the guards with the local police. We had them in working with us, kind of doing an anti-bullying thing for that age group. So one of the things I actually done was got the police officer to put the handcuffs on me, hands behind the back. Before they got the handcuffs on, I actually put a shoulder lock on.
Really?
And that got the attention. So it's a lot of the time with teenagers, I think you're sort of fighting for the attention to show them something a bit crazy, and all of a sudden it draws them in. And weapons do that very well.
Yeah. Now, this may not be a big aspect of it to you, but something that drew me back to the martial arts again and again and again was the intertwining of Eastern philosophy. Have you dove into that in any way, shape, or form? I only say that because every martial arts teacher I ever had, like the first karate teacher I had, told us Aesop fable type Zen stories. Yeah. And all the way up to when I was in high school with Mr. Hill, he essentially just ripped off the Tao Te Ching and put it in his own book and sold it to me for $10. The moral of the story is, the martial arts has that philosophical aspect of it, and it has that appeal to you.
It's something I've never delved too much into. Now, I've done, I think, the general reading the Book of Five Rings, and things like that, but I've never really delved too much into the philosophical side of it.
It was maybe, and that's the thing too, since everybody here is literally fighting for everybody's attention, since we have so many martial arts schools, you all of the teachers I ever had that were any good were very showmanistic, and maybe that's it. Like if you are really fighting to stay relevant, you have to make yourself that Aesop's Fable guy or the Tao Te Ching guy or the whatever guy here.
Yeah.
And when I was a kid in the harder arts, and my teacher would tell the story of, the kangaroo rat running from the eagle, and when he's right by his house, he turns around, and the moment of hesitation gets him murdered. A lot of the stories ended in murder, come to think of it. They were always animal-based, and one of them was always dying. but that was the part of it, too, is like, when you're teaching kids, especially the martial arts, at least here with the 80s and early 90s and that whole like violence is the enemy and the satanic panic remnants, we really had to hammer home. It's like, you learn to fight so you don't have to fight, which is the dumbest thing in the world when you're a kid to hear.
Right.
Yeah.
Because when you're watching the Ninja Turtles and you knowing nothing, walking up to my karate instructor, and he's got like the mullet and the mustache because it's the early 90s. And he says, we learn to fight so we don't have to fight. I go, this is going to be bullshit.
Well, when I, growing up, I'm not much younger than David, but like, I never was in martial arts. I had a neighbor she did karate, but she was like little, but nothing, we never learned anything in school. Like we never talked about how to defend yourself or anything until a fight actually happened, and then you're screwed because you don't know how to do anything.
But girls have it a different way too.
I guess, but girls still get bullied.
Not today, obviously, but I'm like when we were both kids, like back in the 80s, early 90s, etc. It was still very much the mentality of like, cooking is for girls and cars are for dudes. but yeah, it is a. Because all of my karate classes and ninjutsu class, like I can think of 2 girls. One of them has been on this show, and that's it.
Yeah, it wasn't talked about. And my cousins, who are both boys, they were Boy Scouts. They didn't do martial arts, so it was never a part of my growing up.
I'll ask you this, Emmett. Maybe it's a family thing too, because my family, myself, my brother, my cousins, all fell into the martial arts because of Karate Kid and the Ninja Turtles. Did you have other siblings and or family members, cousins, aunts, uncles, etc., who like jumped into it with you, or was it just you?
Just me. I know when I was about 16, 17, one of my younger brothers done maybe about 6 months training, but never came back. And then the other younger brother, now he came to one class about 3 years ago with me, and never had any interest in it. But there's never really been any martial arts between my siblings or uncles, aunts, or anything like that. But I know a generation before that now would have been very involved in fighting generally. But so maybe it's just skipped a few generations and I've got the gene. But
Maybe, yeah, or yeah. Because here's the thing: like when the martial arts started like gaining traction, like here and there, was like the '60s. Because before, it was just sort of a joke.
yeah.
I feel like pop culture wise, and in most people's minds, like karate and the martial arts was just like a weird Oriental thing, like how backwards it was. But when like the Gracies with their BJJ, or like all the people coming over from Okinawa and bringing that stuff in the 60s, and then we got to see things like the flowering of Bruce Lee and the withering of what's his face with the beard, god damn it, Chuck Norris.
Oh yeah.
So we had that blossoming that sort of planted all those seeds. And now, like here, we have so many styles. And
What does Jean-Claude Van Damme do?
oof.
Ballet.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, because he was basically a model.
Oh really? I had only seen those few movies with him, and
Yeah,
I mean,
JCVD probably is. If you had to nail him down, I think he's probably like mostly Muay Thai and kickboxing.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
thanks.
His thing is the splits and having nice buns.
Yeah, that he does.
But yeah, he was okay. Let's talk about this, Emmett. Do you like? Obviously, you have to like martial arts flicks and action flicks, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
So let's start going A-list as far as action heroes, not necessarily martial arts, but for me, A-listers are Stallone, Schwarzenegger. Oh God, who would be on that same level? Nobody anymore.
No.
They were like the
Jason Statham would probably
yeah.
be up there a bit.
yeah.
I like him. He's good.
Jason Statham is so versatile. He is so like wildly talented martial arts wise, but he's also like hilarious,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is incredibly unfair to like literally everybody else doing movies. Like, but that's his shtick. I think, you know, like bottom of the barrel people like Seagal or Norris, or even like, because Jet Li sort of was like, he was big, and then disappeared.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same thing with Jackie Chan. Whatever happened to him? He just got old.
Right. I mean, Stallone is getting up there too.
Yeah, well, Stallone's like 80. But like, he's a different animal too, because like the martial arts guys, they have a much longer career of activity, whereas like your Seagals start out with a pretty low impact physical wise, and then devolve into just being a walrus in camo and having like an AR.
But he is your guilty pleasure, like 100%.
Yeah, he is. He's a beautiful disaster.
I think one of my favorite action stars actually Dolph Lundgren.
Really?
He always plays kind of a real dumb kind of guy but he's actually, I think he's got something like 3 doctorates or something.
Yeah,
He's
he's
got 5 or
incredibly
6
smart.
black
Yeah.
belts, and he's even his martial arts background is massive.
Yeah,
He's
what a talent he is that sort of went under everybody's radar.
yeah.
Let me ask you, where did you first come into contact with Dolph Lundgren? Like what movie?
Rocky.
Really? Okay. So
Yeah.
I missed that one. My first Dolph experience was the canon classic Masters of the Universe.
Yeah.
So does he like, I don't know a lot about him. Does he usually play the bad guy, or does he usually play the good guy, or is it just a mix?
So he's played He-Man, he's played the Punisher, he's played Ivan Drago, he's been in the Expendables, he's been in a zillion different things, and that's why maybe he's not as universal as all these people, because he wasn't really pigeonholed.
Yeah.
He plays a bunch of different characters. Like Stallone and Schwarzenegger, you'll never see them playing a bad guy.
Right.
except when Stallone, or rather when Schwarzenegger was sitting at home one day and 3 dump trucks of cash rolled up. And what's his name? Joel Schumacher was like, how'd you like to wear a stupid costume and say ice puns? And he's like, how many dump trucks? Anyway.
A lot.
Yeah. That's so funny, too, because ego will keep a lot of these actors from being...
Themselves?
No, not themselves, but like villains.
Oh, yeah.
Like Jackie Chan was offered a lot of roles where he was going to play the villain, and he's like, no, that's not me. And I agree. Like, personally, that's not him. But it would have been nice to see a little shift in his,
Character.
range.
Yeah.
That's why I think you're probably nailing it with the Dolph Lundgren of it all.
Yeah.
He's not super flashy, but Jesus Christ, is he a tall, statuesque, ass-kicking man.
That's one way to put it. But
He's one of those dudes who, like, because there are a lot of ways that things can go wrong for you in the looks department. But there are some people who travel through life with nary a care. Dolph started like with Master of the Universe and Rocky, like just incredible looking. And he has aged into an even more incredible looking dude. Whereas like Chuck Norris looks like roadkill.
Yeah.
yeah.
He somehow, and not that he had a lot, that might be unfair because Chuck Norris did not have a lot to work with from the jump. So maybe unfair. Now, do you like old-fashioned kung fu movies, like the dubbed ones with all the crazy flying?
Not so much now. I think House of Flying Daggers and that kind of thing I would have watched quite a lot, but I think the ones prior to that wouldn't really have got into too much now.
They are very, I don't even know how to describe them. They're like cartoons.
Yeah.
So if you don't like your reality to be batshit insane, yeah, the old kung fu movies are not your jam. But what is your favorite martial arts movie then?
That's a bit tough one now. But,
Or let's say top 5. I don't want to nail you down. Let's just say top 5, no particular order, because I've got a few that I probably couldn't pick between 1 or 2.
I think Red Belt, if you've ever seen it.
I've not.
It was actually quite a low budget one, but it was sort of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu based.
Okay.
So you should check it out. It's actually quite a good film. But I actually seen it on TV about 4 or 5 years ago, and then searched for 4 years to get the DVD. So it was quite tough to get. It was just something I accidentally came across, but it's an excellent film and kind of very underrated.
Okay. Red Belt, you said.
Red Belt, yeah.
Okay.
I couldn't even name any of the actors in it. They're sort of they're unknowns, kind of really.
Yeah.
I think best of the best has to be up there.
So you said it was Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Okay. Because I was like, what style? But you already said that. That was a dumb question. What else you got on your list?
Best of best. What else, I suppose?
Let me ask you this. Did you like, because I think this is one of my favorites, did you like Kiss of the Dragon?
Excellent. Love that one.
That was Jet Li in his goddamn prime. Everybody in that movie, I think, nails it. The Fonda that's in it, Jet Li. I think that evil villain is one of the best villains I've seen on screen. The fight between Jet Li and those 2 giant blonde golems. Holy shit. That has such an amazing cast, and his skill is unparalleled.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, the scene where he put the needle in the back of the guy's neck.
Yeah.
As soon as my daughter seen that, she came up and she goes, like, you're a sensei, do you know what the name of that point is? She thought it was a genuine thing, and I think I said they're Governor Vessel 14 or something. She looked it up, and it was around the right spot. But I think she went and told all her friends then that she knew this point, and it was a lot of crack, a lot of fun with her.
Yeah. But, that's a film that beautifully walks the line between reality and fantasy, because you can see the legitimacy that Jet Li brings with his martial arts skill, but they like to throw in some of that old style kung fu movie bullshit with the Kiss of the Dragon.
Yeah.
And the fact that it made it, obviously it was plausible enough, because I had people ask me if it was a real thing.
Yeah.
I go, yeah, of course.
I think too, where he was throwing the needles across a room, maybe about 12 foot, and putting it in the exact point where he needed it to be. It was,
yeah, it was, and that's the thing. He's so incredibly talented with these needles. And when he finally performs the Kiss of the Dragon, personally, I felt it looked very clunky.
Yeah.
Because when you see him throwing needles and doing all of these wicked, like he I don't remember what part of the movie it is, but like he has to deal with these two guards. So he's like, whoop, boink, and just pops him in the neck with the needle, and they go, whoa, you know. And there's all that, and I think maybe the slow-mo was the detriment, because like he's fighting that French guy, and they're doing their whole thing. It's really impressive. And then he goes, whoop, whoop, bite the pin. He goes, whoop, pop. And I go,
So these points, the points that you guys are talking about, are they like
They're
the
acupuncture points.
Okay.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, none of them can kill you.
Well, I figured
Yeah.
that.
Or all of them can kill you if you hit them all at once. No one's ever tried.
Right.
But we'll see.
It's like Kill Bill, the five, what is it, the five-finger death touch?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Another great one.
Yeah.
All those hilarious old school, like, and we can all thank Count Dante, that shill. But when he popped and he was like, yeah, I know the dim mock, the touch of death. Okay, now that we are started down this road, I've got to ask you this. What is your opinion on all of these, like, dim mock style characters? Like, what's his name? Dylan with his touchless knockout. All of these, like, energy warriors. What is your opinion?
This could take a while.
I feel like we're going to be on the same page here.
Yeah, it's. I think it's on the same page as sort of hypnotism and crystals and things, and it's
Yeah.
just about.
Yeah, I think that, because every time, like, 'cause I get it. It's basically like a cult mentality. Like, if you are
Yeah.
a charismatic enough teacher, you can convince people to fall down by looking at them, by wiggling your fingers, by doing like, ooh, by making an ooga booga face at them. But every time the rubber has to meet the road and they say, well, I am from a local TV news reporting agency. Please use me as a guinea pig. Strange how 100% of the time they Uri Geller it, if you get that reference.
I've only ever heard of one person actually doing it for a newspaper or that with pressure points even. It was Evan Pantazzi.
Okay.
He got interviewed by Playboy, I think it was about 10 years ago. And the reporter actually called him out on it and asked him to do a pressure point knockout on him.
Uh-huh.
And he actually done it, knocked the guy out. And it's the only time I've ever heard of sort of genuine proof that this
Well,
wasn't a student. And it's...
I can buy, like, that's the thing. If it involves touching a human body,
Yeah.
I can buy you making an effect on it. Like, there's a million stories. From every sensei I've ever had, there's a million stories of people who got their lights put out from shit that should not have put their lights out.
Yeah.
Back when I was in high school, one of my teacher's favorite stories was he was teaching this guy, basically just this classic, if someone swings a punch at you with your dominant hand, you grab their wrist, and with your backhand, you grab the back of their elbow and just give them a nice spin, knock them on their ass. Simple as that. The way he tells the story is when the dude threw the punch, dude did the swing, it was the G-forces alone that knocked out the country dude with the cowboy hat throwing the punch and knocked him on his ass. It is incredibly easy to knock somebody out if you know the right ways. Like centrifugal force will do it. You got a couple of spots in your neck that just a touch will do. So I'll believe any of that. If someone says they will do something touchlessly, I know that they are a bullshit artist.
Yeah, definitely.
Ugh. And it was a crushing moment for me personally when during one of my Aikido Ninjutsu classes, my teacher claimed to be able to, with the right mindset and with the right preparation and meditation and etc., could do pull-ups on fluorescent tubes installed in the drop ceiling. I was like,
This is suspicious.
all those, like, don't get me wrong. I love it because I love all the mumbo jumbo that comes with it. But don't tell me that you can change physics, essentially.
Yeah.
I'll listen to any bullshit story you want. But if I ask you to prove it and you don't, we're going to have an issue.
So what do you think about acupuncture? Do you think acupuncture works?
I think acupuncture is effective, as Dave said there about touch and the needles going on.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm not too sure about the system beliefs behind it of the meridians and all this, but I think there is a lot to do with blood vessels and nerves and actual physical bodies in there, which I think, used correctly, they can heal and they can cause an effect to the body. It's like if you had a nerve, it's I suppose it's like your funny bone now. If you hit your funny bone, it's painful.
Oh, yeah.
No, and it's just a nerve. But if you had any nerve, really, you're going to cause some sort of pain.
That's what...
So,
when you are in the martial arts and don't get into the weird mysticism side of it, you do have to walk that line because it will bring in these ancillary genres like acupuncture, because my Aikido ninjutsu teacher also did acupuncture, so that was part of our curriculum as well. Mm-hmm. And if you are critically minded or scientifically minded or whatever, you don't want to buy into the mysticism or the new age of it all, you can see logically, you're introducing pain, like you're causing, like, pain causes blood flow, and blood flow brings with it nutrients and oxygen, yada yada yada.
yeah.
It's an insane thing. I have gotten a few sessions of it back before we had our son and stuff, and there were a couple experiences that I had where I didn't really, it was whatever, but there were a few times where certain points I could literally feel, it's like you could feel the blood moving through my legs. It was very weird, and you don't like sit there.
Think of it like this. When you're in the martial arts, you get hit a lot, but even in real life, you can get hit. If you pick up something or hit yourself on the head on a cabinet, you can feel your heartbeat where the hit was. And it's only because those nerves are all firing. So that's why I think the acupuncture is an interesting concept, and who knows what benefit it has, because how do you describe and or codify and or correlate literally anything? Because you say, well, how does this feel? And they say, it feels good. Science, right? What?
I mean, it's weird because, like, if she didn't hit the right spot, it hurts so bad and it didn't go away. Like, she had to take it out and then put it back in, like, the right.
Well, yeah, that's like when you hit your funny bone. You can hit, like, your elbow is nothing but bone. Mm-hmm. But there are just, like, millimeters of real estate.
Yeah.
If you hit them just right, will destroy every nerve you have in your hand for 45 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, it was weird.
So Emmett, have you ever done that where we've all hit our funny bones, obviously, but have you ever hit it in such a way that your hand dies and the weapon is flung in the direction that it was already traveling?
I don't think so.
You are a more coordinated man than I then, because back in the old days, I had to go outside because I knew that was going to happen, and it did. And the chucks went 40 feet, and my right arm was zombified.
I've actually been in a situation. It was actually the time I got my Shodan in the system I'm teaching now, and one of the other instructors, I think he was a third Dan black belt at the time, and just for fun he came round and he got me to throw a roundhouse punch, and he actually hit the nerve on the arm, 2 different places, and my whole arm went dead. It was like something out of Cobra Kai.
Isn't? Yeah,
I think it was actually the same point he hit, but the whole arm just went dead, and I had to keep sparring with one arm dead, and it was painful.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
The martial arts, but that's the thing that's so compelling about the martial arts is you can do seemingly mystical shit like that. There are parts of the body where even if you would have to train so incredibly hard to hit them because they're so small, but even a blind squirrel will get a nut. So anybody who puts on the gloves and spars has a chance at ringing your bell, and any bell that you've got.
Yep.
I think if I learned or had an interest when I was younger, I would be more coordinated now as a 32-year-old adult. Are you teaching your children martial arts if they have an interest in it?
Have we established
Yeah,
he has
well-
children?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, three daughters and a son, but my son's only 3 weeks old yesterday. But,
yeah. Duh. I knew that you had kids, but I didn't know if we
He
brought
had
it up on
mentioned
the...
his daughter
okay,
earlier.
yeah, I couldn't remember if we brought it up on the show if it was canonical or not. Sorry.
Yeah, all three of my daughters already train in martial arts. It's the oldest girl now. She does the system I teach, and she's dabbled in Brazilian jiu-jitsu a bit and judo, and the other two girls do Brazilian jiu-jitsu and kickboxing, and they also train along with us as well. So they've a good range of cross training going on. And
That's awesome.
the oldest girl, if she finds any martial arts, she's obsessed.
Yeah.
That's how I was, man. Like as a kid, I would just devour everything I could, which, pre-internet was pretty slim pickings.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's so great now that, because especially with COVID, you can walk onto YouTube and find a Matt. Or Matt Pasquinelli. You can find a Sensei Emmett. You can find a million dudes and ladies out there who will teach you literally anything. Like the dude from Mick Dojo Life is how I learned to do the speed chucks. Like it's as simple as that. Like it is nice to have like an in-person, face-to-face master, because you need that physical interaction and feedback.
Right, especially if you're not doing the right technique and you can't see, like, you think you're doing it while looking at a person on YouTube, but you're not.
It's kind of like trying to learn from a book. I bought foolishly so many martial arts books, and you look at these pictures, and how do you show someone a proper punch in 4 captions of a dude in like 70s hair and a porn stash, and he's just like, hi-ya, and you go, am I doing this right? So YouTube is definitely a step up from that.
Yeah.
Because you can at least see, and you can see the body movements, but you don't have to, because that's the thing, when you're a kid and you say, Mom, Dad, I want to study karate. I want to do taekwondo. They go, how much does it cost?
Right. Yeah.
Now,
Is there a free trial?
Yeah, you can jump onto YouTube and get the first class of taekwondo, aikido, and jitsu. You can learn the chucks. You can learn the sticks. You can learn the sword for free and get a taste. And then throw your money after your time. But back when we were kids, it was like,
Yeah.
yee. Because it's not just a weekly fee. You have to buy the outfit. You have to buy your gi, and then you can buy belts, and then because it's a whole money-making scam.
And you can't return it if your kid doesn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
It's not like an instrument where you can rent it and give it back.
Yeah, go to the Facebook Marketplace and search child's gi, and you'll be inundated with an avalanche of white cotton.
She said a guy came to a class there about 2 years ago, and he came to one class, and then a second class he came on with a £250 gi. He had the nunchucks aside. I think he went out and spent nearly £1,000, so probably about $1,200
Lord.
after one class, and he stayed for about 4 classes and then quit.
Oh, yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
like, it's
Yeah, but there's room for everybody in the martial arts. There's the people who want to crank it to 11 and stay there, and then there are the people who want to get in and like basically do it for the aesthetic.
yeah.
There's a bunch of dudes like that. The more gewgaws and patches and goofy shit that a dude has on his uniform, the less serious I take him.
Yeah.
When I would train, and it would, everybody, including the teacher, would just be in a rig's ass gi. All the dudes who put their patches and wear their belts with a million stripes or yada, yada, yada. Yeah, methinks thou dost attest too much. I can buy patches right now. So let me ask you this then. So when you are training, do you guys stick to a gi or some sort of jumpsuit like that, or are you guys doing in your street clothes?
Gi most of the time now. It
Okay.
would be.
Yeah, for throws, it's a necessity, right?
Yeah, definitely. There would be times now it would only be very, very rare now, a few nights a year we would get jeans and a shirt, sort of streetwear, and we would train in that just to sort of, it would be more of a fun night kind of thing, and just, be a lot of sparring and seeing can you do the throws when someone's wearing a shirt or choking someone with their own jacket.
I like doing both. I like going into a class and having that big, rough, like stiff-ass gi that's good for throwing. Yeah. But I also love rolling into classes where you can do it in jeans and a t-shirt because, like, the gi is fun because you're getting the history, you're getting the ceremony, you're getting the proper technique. But I think that doing the street clothes stuff is probably just as important because if you want to translate these techniques into a real world situation, you're not going to run into a dude who's wearing, you know, a size appropriate, thick, heavy cotton gi that you're going to be able to throw his ass around with.
Yeah.
But the gis are so much fun, though.
Oh, they are definitely. And I think since I've started instructing now, I've tried to kind of incorporate a lot more of wearing a jacket just to sort of get the feel for kind of throwing with that kind of clothing. And we've even went outside of the dojo and trained in the streets just to get used to falling on concrete. So, because I remember when I first started training the system I'm doing now, we done all the break falls outside on concrete. So
like from the start?
From the start. So we learned them very quickly. So yeah. I know now we've got kids now, we could be spending 2-3 months trying to get them to do break falls. And half the time they're messing about and it takes them a while. But with us, we were out in concrete. If you didn't do it right, you got cut and bruised. So we took it quite serious and learned very fast. But you knew you had it when you left class without a bruise.
A lot of people will proselytize this, that falling is maybe the most important thing you can learn in the martial arts. Like, do you agree with that?
Yeah, well, as somebody that does a lot of throwing, I'd say definitely. Because we can fall from, if you're doing striking, you could fall maybe a couple of feet. Now, we could be lifted by someone 6'7" and thrown from above their head. So it's quite a big fall at times. That's
something that is fundamental, I think, because everybody thinks, you know, you're punching, you're kicking, yada, yada, yada. But no matter how firm your feet are, anyone can get caught from behind. Anyone can get shoved, you know, without being in a ready stance. So knowing to fall, I think, should be literally the groundwork.
Definitely. It's actually saved me outside of the dojo as well once or twice. But I think we would have an annual sports day for the kids here in the local town. And I think it was about 4 years ago. They had they got all the parents. They do a couple of races just for the fun of it. And they had them running backwards for maybe 50 meters. And me being the local martial arts instructor, I was roped into it, like, because I'm supposed to be fit, but I was in the lead, and I was going like the hammers, tripped, and I managed to do a back break fall.
Oh yeah!
But it wasn't after I'd done it, I noticed there was actually a rock sitting right next to my head. So if I hadn't have, I probably would have came away with quite a bad wound to the head. Yeah,
falling is something that it's so fundamental. I think it should be taught in real primary schools. Like if you're a 3-year-old, I'm going to teach my kid to fall, even if he doesn't want to get into the martial arts. He has got to learn how to fall. He falls so much now as a toddler, it's ridiculous. Being able to just because you're gonna have jackass friends growing up, being a kid, you're gonna have rough housing buddies and stuff. If you can get tossed to the ground without smashing your head on something, it's like having a Swiss Army knife in your pocket that literally deals with any situation where you could be falling to the ground.
It can be dangerous too, when you're young.
Yeah,
I know I've done some stuff that was pretty stupid, down to the fact that I was overconfident in what I could do.
We all have that bell curve of experience versus confidence. When you start, you have nothing, and you get a little bit of experience, your confidence shoots way up, and then it's a X for the rest of your life. Yeah, but you need that. You need to have that experience where you walk into hopefully on mats for the kids. even on a mat, you could really destroy your back if you do not fall correctly.
Yeah, definitely. And I think over time too, actually doing it quite a lot can actually damage your back a bit, because I know now, touching 40, my back is starting to feel it a bit. But
Yeah, but that's the thing. I think what happens when you're young. Maybe you can see the through line here. Maybe there's truth to it. But when you're young, you do things low and hard, like you very low stance, very hard fighting. And as you get older, you soften and stand a lot taller.
yeah,
When you're, especially, people's hips are a big one. And if you can keep your hips as close together with keeping as much stability, there are so many arts that do that. And it's almost like an epiphany. Because as a kid, you'll get taught the stances. They're very wide. Either your T stance or your wide, classic karate style. Why can't I pull this word? Kata stance. So you're very wide and very big steps, which is cool. It's impressive and it's flashy. But like if you're in a situation where someone's going to swing at you or going to pull a cues coming at your head, you're not going to be that guy who's going to drop super low and be like the Karate Kid and be like, woo, like dodge the thing. And it's just too much. You want to do as little as possible when you get old.
yeah, definitely. I suppose it's use as little energy as possible to do as much damage. So minimum effort, maximum efficiency.
That's why judo and all of the softer stuff is such a beautiful thing. Because with just a simple step backwards and a turn of the hips, you're throwing dudes 10, 20 feet. Instead of like having to turn your whole body just to do a nice big forearm block on a single punch. So much energy wasted. You could have just grabbed it and threw them.
I've actually got a friend he teaches in a city next to us. And he's about 6'4", big guy. Like. But he's been down with us teaching seminars and he always says that he teaches jiu-jitsu the lazy way. He said as little as you can possibly do.
Oh, for sure.
So, but one of the things he loves to do is be a stomach throw. So he'd get someone to grab him and he'd say, so you just put your foot here and just sit down. He said, when someone wants to start a fight, sit down. The next thing you know, he's throwing someone over his head. But all he's really done is moved his foot and sat down.
Because that's what'll happen if you get into martial arts and you start paying attention to your body. Is because we're all lazy. We look for the path of least resistance, and so if you stick with an art, you do things as efficiently and quickly as possible. And if you go to an art that's already super fast and efficient, all the moves are super tiny, you can destroy your room and look like you're not doing a thing. Which is just as impressive as being, the big flashy dude.
I don't have much faith in a lot of the flashy stuff now. I think for years I was practicing butterfly kicks and all that and the acrobatics. And then I realised you're never going to pull that off in a street situation. And even if you do, is there going to be any power in it? It's because it's part of Taekwondo slowly turned into a sport. So that's why you get like your butterfly kicks and your spin kicks. And like, I don't know. And maybe there is a guy or a girl out there who will, and maybe is even doing this. But it seems completely crazy to me to bring an overhead axe kick to any fight. Like, I'm never going to enter a fight and basically just bring one leg over my head, exposing the most sensitive part of me. To be like, hey, if you're faster than me, here's a great butthole shot. You can hit me in the nuts. Do whatever you want. Like, because your leg has to travel a very long way and then come back down. And so you might as well write them a letter telling them when the fight is going to be. That's the thing that put me off the big flashy kicks was actually a few years ago. It was outside a nightclub. And there was a fight breaking out between a fella and a girl. It must have been his girlfriend or whatever. And the guy actually done a butterfly kick and landed right in front of her.
Really?
I think it was a kind of an intimidation thing without actually hitting her. He done it, and as soon as he landed, she kicked him in the nuts. That was it. Fight over, and I thought, there was a fancy kick and a simple kick, and he's lying down. So
Yeah. It was so crazy when I met my teacher, Mr. Hill. He was the one who was like, "It's ridiculous. Don't do that." He says, "If you're ever kicking above waist height, just hand them your money or let them kick your ass." Right? Anytime you try and kick the solar plexus, like the groin is the highest you can go, but like you should be smashing their ankles or kicking them in the knee. If you're aiming for their face with your foot, just say you won.
definitely. So you even see it in UFC now. There with the calf kicks. There's a lot of sort of backlash on that now, especially after the Conor McGregor fight.
Oh yeah, because it's brutal.
Yeah, it's very effective when it's done right, but it's very difficult to get right.
Yeah, but if you're good at it, because joints are what a lot of systems are based on destroying. And so if you're good at kicking and you know how to put a heel into someone's ankle or someone's knee, you can literally destroy that leg for the rest of their life.
Is that what happened with the Conor McGregor fight?
I don't know what happened with McGregor. I didn't watch that fight, but I just know that his leg was destroyed.
Yeah, I think he snapped his ankle, wasn't it?
Oh, God.
But I think he had an injury coming into the fight, and I think then he snapped the ankle then on a calf kick.
Kicks are dicey because if you don't know what part of your foot you have to put in what part of their body, you can just destroy your own foot. A lot of dudes will teach the basically where you're trying to hit with the top of your foot. I think that is ridiculous.
There's so many small bones up there.
Yeah. For my money, if you're going to kick someone, you're either going to use the ball of your foot or the heel of your foot or the blade. If you're going to try and like do a nice little whoop, like if they're turning, you want to give them a little slice. You're not actually, whatever. But when you're doing training, they, have you, hit with the clean, flat part of your foot on all those pads they'll have you hold.
Yeah.
But
That seems dangerous.
yeah.
As I mentioned before, I've ended up in crutches over that exact thing, sparring, but hitting with the top of the foot, and I threw a roundhouse and caught the guy on the hip.
Yeah.
And the foot just folded in half.
Ooh. Yeah. It's so crazy to me that nobody up until I was like in my late teens, none of the teachers I had was never like, it's all fun to do these kicks, but never use it on anything harder than like a loaf of bread, right? Because your foot bones are so tiny and fragile. Like even if you do, like let's say you're one of those dudes who in a fight does the top foot kick and is able to like land a nice nut shot, you are just as likely to break all of the bones in your foot on their pelvis.
Yeah.
Like, so he'll be on the ground clutching his nuts and you'll be on the ground 3 feet away clutching all of your broken bones. And he'll get to, ideally, walk away from that situation.
Yep. And then you're in a boot for 7 weeks.
Yeah. Aye. But that's part of it too, is when you get into martial arts, you basically signing up for a bunch of weird injuries.
Yeah, I didn't actually start getting injured until I became an instructor. And then I think since maybe it's kind of, I was getting older at that stage too, so I think it just kind of I started to ramp up injuries at that point. But
I feel like when you're younger, your body is more like not malleable, but like.
But yeah, it is more malleable.
Like
we become more rigid as we get older. But not only that, when we get to a point in our expertise where we say, "I know what I'm doing," it's like that. Not to bring up spiritualism or whatever, but like in the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu will say, most things fail at the end. So give as much care at the end as the beginning. So it's easy to, after we look back at a long martial arts training session or career or whatever, to be like, I got this covered. You need to be as careful now as you were back then. Because that's how I ended up with my pinky toe completely perpendicular to the rest of my foot.
yeah.
I was like, hey, I got this. Throws are easy. And then my pinky toe went in between one of the slots in the mat, and I got thrown. I go, my foot feels weird. And I looked down, and it was like this. I was like, whoa, that's weird.
That shouldn't be like that.
Those injuries are fun in hindsight. Well, Emmett, it has been a super fun time having you. I really appreciate you coming on the show, man.
Well, thank you, Dave. It was a pleasure being here.
Anytime I get to pick anybody's brain about something that I also overlap with, I'm going to do it.
Definitely.
So let's do this. In my show, usually, this is a new show and a new thing, but we'll do it anyway. I like to do a round of staff recommendations. So what would you like, rather, to recommend to anybody listening that they can, it can be music, it can be something related to martial arts, it could be a movie. It doesn't have to be what we were talking about, but what do you think is good enough to pass on to somebody else?
There's actually a book I'm reading at the moment I would recommend to anybody, and it's actually Ian Abernathy's. I can't actually remember the name of it now, but it's his most popular book anyway. But anything by Ian Abernathy.
And what genre is he?
He is karate.
Okay.
He does a lot of stuff with kata, but he is a very systematic way of teaching kata. As I said before when I was interviewing him about his 4 steps, but he said it's not steps because it makes it sound like it's a progression kind of thing where all these things are done at once sort of thing. But it's very interesting reading.
Okay.
And it's some very interesting views on kata in specific.
So in this book, is it, I guess I'm trying to get some context here. Is it like a manual complete with pictures, or is it like a narrative story sort of thing as he teaches you?
It's a manual with pictures and that's kind of going through bunkai from different katas. And some of his views on kata is very sort of unique to him kind of thing. I don't want to give too much away, but I'd say he's probably one of the lead guys in the world at the minute, based around kata and karate in general.
Okay.
So
now we should have touched upon that, because I know in karate, oftentimes to get a certain belt, you'll have to manufacture or create your own kata. Did you have to do that?
I didn't. We don't actually do a lot of katas in our system, so I kind of got away from that a bit, but I did do katas when I was younger.
Yeah, we didn't...
What are those? Is that just a stance? Or
No, a kata is like a series of movements that you have to learn. So like for my black belt tests, I had to do 6 or 8 katas with a bunch of different weapons, but we never had to make up our own, which I felt kind of gypped about. But, it'll, in the course of time, I'm sure it'll shake loose. So, once again, his name was Ian Abernathy, right?
Ian Abernathy, yeah.
Okay, so if you're into that, karate and the katas, that's something to look up. I'm going to say, I don't know, man. I think here, I'll just give a blanket recommendation for latter-day Steven Seagal. If you want to see how wrong the martial arts can go, look up anything post 2010 with Steven Seagal, where what you're being told is Aikido is nothing but wheezing and stunt doubles. But Aikido is a great art if you want to get into that.
Yeah. There's a great video on YouTube, 10 minutes long, of Steven Seagal running.
I've seen that video more than once being a Seagal fan. And isn't his, like, the manipulations of his arms as he moves at a high rate of speed seems to me that he just loses all control of them after, like, he hits over 5 miles an hour and his arms just go, nope, I'm out. Woof. But yeah, okay. So anyway, thanks for being on the show, Emmett. Let's also plug your YouTube channel. If somebody wants to come and search you out, what is the name of your YouTube channel that people can find you?
Nice and simple, Sensei Emmett.
There you go.
And you can find it easy enough now, and there's some great interviews on there. So I think there's something for everybody, really.
It's an interesting. So if you are into the martial arts, I kind of did a 1-2 punch, because I don't even know how I found Matt's show, but I started on Matt Pasquinelli because it was simple, straightforward. Because I was also falling into, if you know him, Tim Larkin.
Yeah.
So I got his book, Target Focus Training, and that sort of coincided with the Matt Pasquinelli of it all. And so I started to not only want to look at the practical, like the practicing and the actual movement, but also like some of the history and interviews from people. And that's how I stumbled onto your channel, is because it's more of the intellectual side and a breakdown of different arts, whereas Matt is basically just where the rubber meets the road as far as skill and technique.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think if you're going to do that, do both. Like, don't do yourself the disservice of not looking into the history of the art that you are interested in. Don't do yourself the disservice of just getting into it for the movements and for the superficiality of it all.
Yeah.
All right, man. It's been super fun. This has been a great episode. Once again, I want to thank you and the listener for coming and partaking. So, Emmett, I hope we can see you back on.
Definitely, anytime.
We'll have to. We'll go freewheeling and talk maybe just about the Ninja Turtles because everybody knows I can do that.
Actually, I asked an interesting question during the week on the same topic. Was it Ninja Turtles versus the Power Rangers? But
I mean,
it was a no-brainer. But
I feel like it is too. But I've already pseudo wrapped up the show 40 times, and this topic is so compelling. We are definitely going to have to do it later.
Yep.
no problem.
So once again, guys, thanks for listening. I have been Dave.
I'm Krista.
I'm Sensei Emmett.
There you go. Saying thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time on another episode of Everything Everywhere.
Or they try to.
Fistful of Podcasts Radio.